In the UK, there was a small group of friars. They were called the Marian Franciscans. About 20 of them. They loved both St. Francis of Assisi and St. Maximilian Kolbe. And they had a special devotion to Mary. They celebrated the traditional Latin Mass. They also celebrated the newer form, the Novice Ordo. For years, things went really well. Let's go back to the beginning. In November 2014, the first friars arrived in the Diocese of Portsmouth. By June 2015, they were taking care of St. Mary's Parish in Gosport. Then, on May 31st, 2018, Bishop Philip Egan officially made them a public association of the faithful. That was a big deal. In July 2019, 4 of their members were ordained as priests, using the old rite. More people joined. So in February 2020, they opened a second house at St. Joseph's in Copnor, Portsmouth. Their work grew fast. They celebrated daily vespers and holy hour. They ran men's groups, retreats, and conferences. They even served communities in London, including Tyburn Convent and St. Mary Magdalene. But then came a turning point. In 2021, Pope Francis issued Traditionis Custodes. That document made it harder to get permission for the traditional Latin Mass. Diocesan approvals became more restricted, so the friars decided to move. In 2022, they relocated to the Diocese of Dunkeld in Scotland. Bishop Stephen Robson welcomed them. About 20 Marian Franciscan sisters came too. A diocesan press release said plans were being explored to buy a friary, convent, chapel, and ground for long-term use. It sounded promising, but those plans never finished. Then came another change. A new bishop was appointed, Bishop Andrew McKenzie. He was ordained Bishop of Dunkeld on August 10, 2024. And in February 2025, the friars and sisters got bad news. The previously agreed property purchase would not be ratified. They were told to leave the diocese. Later, the deadline was extended. They could stay in the 2 properties until October 31st, 2026. But the writing was on the wall. Here's the sad part. The community was actually thriving. Supporters say attendance grew significantly. Many young families joined their liturgies and devotions. There were large numbers of baptisms. Many people made Marian consecrations. The apostolate was alive and bearing fruit. Still, on April 27, 2026, the friars voted. They decided to ask for their own dissolution. It was a painful choice. On May 24th, Bishop Philip Egan of Portsmouth issued a formal decree of dissolution. He said he agreed after serious and careful consideration. The dissolution takes effect from June 1st, 2026. On that date, the Marian Franciscans will no longer exist as an association of the faithful. They cannot act publicly in that name anymore. Bishop Egan also said the Diocese of Portsmouth will work with Bishop Andrew McKenzie. They will handle practical arrangements, and they will care for the pastoral needs of the lay friars and the community in Dunkeld. But here's a small glimmer of hope. Bishop Egan has allowed the priests who are from the Diocese of Portsmouth to wear a different Franciscan habit. He also gave them permission to continue masses, sacraments, and devotions at 3 locations. St. Agatha's in Portsmouth, St. Joseph's in Copnor, and St. Thomas More's in Iford. The friars themselves announced the news on X. They wrote, "Ave Maria, it is with heavy hearts that we break the news to you." They added, "We unite all our sufferings with those of the Sorrowful Heart of Mary." Their supporters also put out a press release. They said the dissolution marks the end of a distinctive chapter in contemporary Catholic life in the United Kingdom. But they remain hopeful. They believe the friars' mission and spiritual fruits will endure. And maybe one day, the community will return to Britain in a new form. So what's the takeaway? A group of faithful friars grew quickly. They served many people. They brought young families back to traditional worship. But changes in bishops, combined with Vatican restrictions on the Old Mass, led to their end, at least for now. It's a story of growth, heartbreak, and hope. And for the Marian Franciscans, the final chapter hasn't necessarily been written yet.